Terence turned pop hunter. One morning at the beginning of summer, a party of young people were waiting at the junction when Thomas arrived. They had a great many boxes and cases with them, all of which they loaded into Clarabelle. "Oh, they're heavy!" she groaned, but the people took no notice. Laughing and talking together, they climbed into Annie. Thomas wondered who they were. He wondered even more when he got out of Hackenbeck, the halt near the tunnel. During the days that followed, Thomas watched as they spread their belongings across the small field near the station. Then Terence came and was put to work clearing piles of topsoil to the edge of the field. He was resting near the station one day when Thomas arrived. "What are you doing?" Thomas asked. "Don't really know," replied Terence. "Owner says it's something called a dig, but I didn't really understand, and I couldn't be bothered to ask." Thomas's driver laughed. "The archaeologists, Terence," he explained. "People are interested in history. They're digging in the field because they're hoping to find important historical remains there." Terence was disappointed. He expected something more exciting than that. "I expected exciting if you find something," said Thomas's driver. "But what if you don't?" objected Terence. "They'll have a lot of hard work for nothing. That's not my idea of fun. When I work hard in a field, I've got something to show for it. Sweeping around with little trowels all day. Ha! That's argue whatever you said. It's a silly waste of time." Summer wore on with no signs of the diggers were finding anything special. They lived in tents, and now and then 2 or 3 of them would take a train to the top station and return with boxes of food. That was the only time they took any notice of the trains. While they were digging, they ignored them completely. At first Thomas whistled as he passed, but no one waved in return. "Bother them! I shall save my steam for something useful," he thought, and puffed indignantly on. At last, one day in summer, Thomas made a longer stop than usual at the halt. The party's boxes were again loaded into Clarabelle. She groaned more than ever, because this time there were even more of them. The people got into Annie, but they didn't talk or laugh this time. They seemed depressed. "I think they've had a wasted summer," remarked Thomas's driver. "No doubt they get used to it." Autumn was the time of the year that Terence always liked. "It's not too hot," he would say, "but I've got something that I can get my plough into. There's always something to do in autumn." "Some of us have to work all year round," Thomas teased. "My passengers don't let me have 9 months of holiday a year like some tractors I could mention." Terence laughed. "You're only jealous." But he knew he would really like to be able to get into the fields more often. One day, his owner took him to the small field near the halt. It was on the opposite side of the line to where the archaeologists had their wasted summer. It had been used as a hay field and for pasturing sheep. "We've got to plough deep here," Terence's owner told him. "I'm reducing my sheep flock, and I don't need this field for grazing anymore. I want to plant and crop it next year instead." Terence found a heavy going. He dug his tracks in and pulled hard. They had ploughed about half the field, and would certainly get the end of the furrow. The plough was lifted to make the turn, and at that moment Terence and his driver heard a rattle from behind them. Terence stopped, and his owner looked back. "What's the matter?" asked Terence. "Have we broken something?" "Seems all right," said the owner. "Can't be anything to do with us. Let's just—" Suddenly he broke off. "Wait a minute, what's that?" He jumped down and dug with his hands in the freshly turned furrow. Then he came slowly to show Terence what he had found. "Ooh," said Terence scornfully. "It's just a dirty old piece of pottery." "It's old certainly," agreed his owner, "and I don't deny it's dirty either. I'm going to the telephone box near the station. I won't be long." He came back, looking excited. "We'll have to leave this field for a bit. I've just been talking to the curator of the museum at Tidmouth. He wants to come and have a look at our pot before we plough any more." "Whatever for?" asked Terence in amazement, but his owner smirked and said nothing. Terence happened to be in the farmyard when the curator arrived, and realized at once that he had been one of the diggers that summer. His owner went quickly to the farmhouse to get the pot. The curator inspected it closely, using a magnifying glass. "You're right," he said at last. "Roman, I think, but I need a second opinion. Where exactly was it found, Terence?" "I'll show you," said Terence. When they reached the field, the curator looked around in surprise. "But this is opposite to where we were in summer," he said. "How on earth?" A week later he was back again. This time he had 3 important-looking gentlemen and a map with him. They gazed at the map and poked at the ground excitedly in retrials, speaking in low voices as they did so. Terence quickly grew bored. He wanted to go and do something useful, but his owner wouldn't let him. After what seemed a very long time, the curator came over to where Terence and his owner stood. He stood in front of Terence and cleared his throat. You, Terence, he announced importantly, have made a significant discovery. You have found in one morning what my friends and I failed to find for a whole summer. Our maps are out of date, and what we wanted to find now turns out to be on this side of the railway, not the other. So next year I shall get my party together again, and can be sure of something worth finding. Well done, Terence. You and your plough have solved several mysteries for us. Thank you. Next summer the diggers came again and made a fuss of Terence. When the site had been cleared, they took a photograph of him beside the remains he had helped to find. Terence was as proud as can be. He doesn't think archaeology is silly wasted time now,